Hey everybody, it's Diane Gale here from the blog and YouTube channel Sustainable Slow Living, and today is Thanksgiving. So happy Thanksgiving. I hope that it is a blessed, warm, wonderful, fulfilling day with friends and family. I hope that it is full of love and grace and peace, and I hope that your bellies are full, well, of whatever it is you want, but in my case, turkey. And I want to talk to you about what you can do with that leftover turkey, because generally there is a lot of leftover turkey. We usually make, my son always made pot pies, and I like to make a turkey salad with cranberries and walnuts and sometimes grapes and celery and onions, and it's delicious. But today I want to make handheld meat pies with you. So basically a turkey pot pie, but in a handheld form. I thought that it would be great to do these with our Thanksgiving leftovers, with our leftover turkey, because they're so easy to utilize, to take to work during the week, and just, for a quick meal. They're quick and easy to grab out of the fridge and just pop in the toaster oven or the oven and warm them up and get a little bit of that Thanksgiving deliciousness later in the week. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to make the filling. And I've got my Dutch oven over here on the stove, so I'm going to bring you over to the stove and we're going to get started. So if you guys have been around a while, you know that I'm not cooking in my own kitchen right now. I'm not used to this stove. This is my cousin's stove. And it's a very cool, I don't even know how old this stove is, but look at these burners. Like, they're so different. I think it's got to be pretty old. And this, you guys, this little guy right here, this is the oven light. I just think that's so cool. Yeah, that's... But anyway, I've got the Dutch oven going here. I'm probably going to have to change the adjustment on my heat quite a bit. The first thing that I want to do is I want to get my vegetables cooking until they're translucent. So I'm going to put a cup of carrots in here, and I'm going to put a cup of celery, a cup of onions, a cup of potatoes, I'm going to call for 1.5 teaspoons of chopped garlic in the recipe. I probably have a little more than that here, but again, if you've been around a while, you know I like garlic. I think I say that every video. And then here I have 1 teaspoon of thyme, 1/2 teaspoon of salt, and 1/2 teaspoon of pepper. So we're going to put all that in there, and I'm going to stir it up. I started with 2 tablespoons of butter in here. It's right there. It's still melting, but it will melt down, and this will cook down until it's translucent. So we've probably just been cooking about 5 minutes here. The onions are starting to get translucent, so we're going to put in the rest of the butter. That will be another 4 tablespoons of butter. I'm missing my homemade Amish butter right now. And we're just going to let that butter melt down. The butter will combine with the flour that we're going to put in just a little bit to help to thicken this, because you're going to need to make it nice and thick so that you can get it into those handheld pies without having it run all over the place. We've got it nice and melted down. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to put in a cup of peas. Frozen peas work perfectly for this. You don't want a canned pea because they're going to be way too mushy. They'll just kind of mush out into the sauce, and you really won't have peas in your handheld pies. And then we're going to put in 2 cups of leftover turkey. I'm using just dark turkey for this. Dark turkey is my favorite. And as I'm sure you realize, I'm not filming this on Thanksgiving after dinner and getting it out to you so early in the afternoon. So what I did is I just bought a nice big turkey thigh and I cooked that off so that I could chop it up and I could use it to show you how to make this recipe with your leftover Thanksgiving turkey. Okay, so once you have that done, you want to turn your heat off and you're going to add some flour. It's nice if you can sift the flour into this because it helps to prevent clumping. My cousin is an amazing cook, but she doesn't cook. So she doesn't have anything in her kitchen at all. So she doesn't have like a little wire mesh strainer for me to sift with. So I'm just going to take this and I'm going to try and get it over the top the best that I can. I'm going to stir that in and then put some more on top. And there we go. And you can probably see how it's thickening that up. And then we're going to take and we're going to put 3 cups of chicken broth in here. I'm going to bring this up to a boil, and then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to let it simmer until it's nice and thick. Once that filling gets nice and thick, I'll let it sit out at room temperature until it cools down completely. And then I'm going to chill it in the refrigerator for about 3 hours. But in the meantime, we're going to make some pie crust. Okay, you guys, so pie crust is so much easier than people imagine that it is. And I know that we have made different pie crusts together. We're making kind of a lot because we're doing a lot of filling. So I have 3 cups of organic all-purpose white flour in this bowl. And I have 1.5 teaspoons of salt here. I'm going to spread that over that flour. And then I'm just going to take a fork and I'm going to mix it all together. And then we're going to put in a full cup of lard. Lard is my favorite way to make pie crust. Not everyone likes to use lard, and I understand that. My sister uses shortening. I know other people who do. She uses a butter flavored shortening. I don't like shortening at all. You can also use butter. Your measurements do change slightly, so you would have to look up another pie crust recipe online. I'm going to take this cup of lard and I'm going to put it in here in chunks because I don't have a pastry blender today. And normally it's not that big a deal to make like a single pie crust without a pastry blender. You just use your fork to mix your lard into your flour until, oops, until it's like in pea-sized pieces. But with this being a whole cup of lard, like this is a triple pie crust recipe. It makes 3 crust. It's going to actually be quite a little job to blend this in here. But that is exactly what I am going to do. I'm going to blend all of this lard into this flour until it's in pea-sized pieces. And just an FYI, you can use your fingers for this. This is about what your mix is going to look like before you start to add the water to it. I just wanted you to have an idea. And I did do this with my fingers. It's so much easier. And then finally what you're going to do to bring your pie crust together is you're going to add ice water to it. You do want it to be ice water. You want your water to be very, very cold. I took 2 ice cubes and put them in a measuring cup and then brought that to a 1/2 cup. So some of them have melted. I'm expecting that this is going to take about a 1/2 cup, but it can vary. So you never add all of your water at once. I'm going to start by adding about 4 tablespoons here, so about a 1/4 cup. And then I'm going to take my fork and I'm going to start to blend that in. I think I'm going to put another full 4 tablespoons in here because I think it's going to take it. And that's about all I'm going to have. If we need more, I'm gonna have to get some more on this ice. So this is what you're gonna look like. You're gonna be pretty chunky here. So you can take a little bit of this in your hand and you can just squeeze it together just a few times. And then if you press on it and it doesn't really crack, it's nice and moist. You don't want it to be wet, but you need it to be kind of like Play-Doh. It needs to stay together. And that's how you know that you've got your pie crust just the way that it needs to be. So I'm going to take this crust and I'm going to form it all into a disc shape. Normally a pie crust, even a double crust, goes in the refrigerator for about, you wrap it in plastic wrap, you put it in there for about an hour. Because this is 3 single crusts, that's quite a lot. I would probably leave this in the fridge for at least 2 hours. I'll probably do the blog post instructions for 3 hours because after all, that's how long you have to chill the filling. We've got a nice big old disc of pie crust here. I'm going to take it, I'm going to wrap it in saran wrap and I'm going to put it in the fridge. And like I said, as soon as that filling cools down to room temperature, I'm going to put that in the fridge. It's getting very late. It's like 8 o'clock. And I have been going all day. And I'm certainly not staying up until 11 o'clock to make handheld meat pies. So I will see you in the morning and we will put these meat pies together. All right, everybody, here we are. I just took this pie crust out of the refrigerator. It's going to be easier to work with your pie crust when it's really cold, which is, of course, the purpose of chilling it. This is a really big piece, so I'm not sure if I'm going to have trouble rolling it out or not. But I'm going to get some flour on the counter here. And a little flour on the pie crust. And on the rolling pin. And we're just going to see how this goes. I might have to break this down into smaller pieces. Her refrigerator is really cold. This is hard. Okay, so what I was able to find in her cupboard to cut the rounds out for the handheld pies was a wide mouth canning jar, and I think it's going to be perfect actually. It's probably one of the things that I'll recommend in the post. So I'm just going to cut rounds out here. So I've got a great little stack of rounds here. I would say they're about 1/4 inch thick, which is perfect because we're going to roll them out a little bit further. So you're going to take each one of these little rounds and you're going to roll them out until they're thinner, you know, more like a pie crust, because these are pretty thick. And besides, it would be almost impossible to put filling in these. The only thing that you want to be careful of is you want to make sure that you keep them round, because you're going to want to be able to fold them over and crimp your edges together. I found that turning them regularly while I'm rolling them worked out really, really well. They stayed pretty round. And then I just did them until, you know, they were nice and thin like a pie crust. And that is not quite as big as I wanted them to be, but this is going to work fine. We're just going to have little tiny handheld pies. Okay, you guys, so here we go. These are the rounds that we have. And I think they came out great. I'm really happy with them. I'm going to show you how to fill them. But first I want to show you the filling. This is what happens with the filling after it's been in the refrigerator. It's going to be super easy to put in these little rounds. It's nice and thick. All right, you guys, if you have never put filling in a pastry and crimped the edges together, then this is where you have to be pretty careful with this. And just consider it an opportunity to learn a new skill. You're going to want to have a towel off to the side to keep your hands dry, and you're going to want to have a little bowl of water as well. And then you're going to use a small teaspoon to put your filling in here because you don't want too much filling. It's very important that your filling doesn't touch the sides of your pastry. Now, I've been touching that filling, so I went ahead and I wiped my hands. I'm going to take one finger here and I'm going to make the edges of this pastry wet. And then I'm going to take and pick this up and fold it. You may have to tuck your filling in as you go, and that's okay. I use my index finger to do that. And then I take my other fingers to crimp my edges together. Now it's gonna be a little bit easier because we're working with a pie crust. When you're doing this with a pasta, like when you're making pierogies, they are very, very particular. Then I'm just gonna take and press them down hard together. And there we go. There you have it, a little handheld meat pie, almost ready to go in the oven. Okay, I've got them all filled, and I want to show you, we're going to vent them. You're going to need a really sharp knife for this. And then I'm going to put some egg wash on them. Now normally I would put the egg wash on them while they were on the pan that I was going to bake with. But I'm using my stone and I already have it hot. And I wanted to do this egg wash for you guys. So I'm just doing it here on this cutting board right now. You only have to do the top. You don't have to egg wash the bottom. And the egg wash is about appearance more than anything else. It's going to help the top of these get a nice golden brown. And there we go. I am going to put these on the stone. I have more to do, but I'm going to put whatever I can fit on my stone and put them in the oven at 350. I'm not sure how long they're going to take to bake, but you only have to bake them until your crust is done and nice and golden brown, and that doesn't take long at all because your filling is really already cooked. And then when they're finished, I'm going to come back and you and I are going to have a taste. Okay, you guys, they are done. Well, half of them are done. I have another batch in the oven that has to be finished. They took about 25 minutes at 350 degrees. These came out terrific. Some of them did overflow a little bit. I don't know if you can see that, and that's because they don't sit really level on the pan, and that's fine. There was not a lot of stuff all over the pan, so we didn't lose a lot of filling. And then others just held their shape beautifully. Well, they all held their shape. Others held their filling beautifully. I know they're going to be fantastic because I know that this is a great pie crust, and I've already eaten the filling. But I have this one here. If you can see the inside of that, it's looking really good. And we're going to have a bite like we always do. I wish you were here to have a bite with me, but I guess I'm on my own. That is very tasty. It's a delicious pie crust. Lard makes all the difference in a pie crust. And if you're only eating it a few times a year, it's really just, I guess, in my mind, not that big a deal. So I would go for the lard. I need another bite. Very, very good, you guys. Very, very good. So I hope that all of you are having an amazing Thanksgiving. I think I said that at the beginning of the video, but it was last night and I was so tired I don't even remember. I hope you're blessed this holiday, and I hope that you are going to take some of your leftover turkey and make yourself some handheld meat pies with it. And it's definitely going to be worth the little bit of extra effort that it takes to roll them individually and pinch them. They're really delicious. And I am so glad that you joined me here today. We're going to get together again, and we're going to do it really soon.